If you're a local business owner who's trying to get that extra advantage through search engine marketing, you've come to the right place. My name is Matt Post. I'm the co-founder of SEM Dynamics, and this is your morning cup of SEO. Now, have you ever been to a website and it took so long for that site to load, you clicked the back button and never came back to the site again? Unfortunately, that is the experience that a lot of users have when using their mobile device and trying to get the information they want. In fact, in April 2017, Google came out with a study is called the State of Retail Performance. And in that study, it concluded that a 1 second additional delay in a site loading equated to about a 20% impact on conversion rates. That same study also concluded that a 2 second delay could increase the bounce rate of users in general by 103%. And if you don't know what a bounce rate is, it means essentially somebody shows up to your site and they leave right away before taking an action or before anything really happening on the site. They show up and they leave, they've bounced. Also, I believe it was in 2018 that Google made the mobile speed it's a ranking factor. Now, it's not a huge ranking factor, but it is a ranking factor when you look at how fast, say, your site loads in comparison to other sites within the same industry or your competitors. When you're looking at how fast your site should load, what you want to do is you want to be looking at the render time, or the render time is essentially how fast the initial pieces of visual data start to appear. If you think of it this way, if the site starts to load and your users see that the site's loading, then they're more apt to wait a little bit longer. So it's really important to be able to start showing data and show that something is happening. They are getting a result that they're expecting, which is your website loading up. So your speed is definitely something to consider in regards to your website, not just for search engines and search engine optimization, but for user experience. It'll affect your conversion rates. It'll affect your bounce rate. And all these interactions will also have indirect effects on your positioning in your search engine ranking. So it will affect your site in more ways than one. Now, when we look at site speed, it's a lot of people just say, "Oh, my site speed." What you want to be looking at is your mobile site speed, and that's often overlooked. And somebody will say, "Oh, my site loads in less than a second." Not on a 3G connection, and that's what you want to be testing. You want to be doing these tests on a 3G mobile connection. Why a 3G mobile connection? We've got 4G, we've got 5G. Often we're on Wi-Fi. Why do we want to do a 3G connection? Because you want to optimize to, I guess, a worst case scenario. Also, if you are a business that does shipping overseas, or you have customers in other countries, those other countries often have a lesser a bandwidth or a slower ability to deliver information wirelessly. I guess that's the best way I can put it. So you want to make sure that you are testing for this lower speed. Additionally, even if somebody is, I know I have a 5G phone. If I am in downtown Los Angeles and I'm trying to make a phone call, even if I can get reception, often it's going to be really bad reception. So this 3G connection somewhat will replicate a poor 4G or 5G connection, assuming that the person who's trying to get to your website is in a major metropolitan area, and often you have large buildings and different things that will affect connectivity. So you want to test at a 3G mobile connection when testing the speed of your site, and you want to be within 3 seconds. And really the rule is you want to be under 3 seconds, but if you're within 3 seconds, that's good. That's You will have a little bit of increase in bounce, a little bit of loss in conversion, but the idea is to get the speed as fast as you can while still providing a great experience and information that your customers, what they want to find. So how are we going to test your mobile speed? There's a few tools out there. There's a lot of free tools out there for mobile speed, and one of the first tools, actually, it's Google came out with a tool. It's their, I think it's Webmaster Speed Test Insights. Go to Google, you can type in Speed Test Insights into Google, and it's going to be one of the first results. You can put in your website, and it's going to do a whole bunch of calculations or whatnot. It's going to come back and it's going to tell you a score from 0 to 100. That is a general score, not necessarily based on how fast your site is, but also based on the number of optimizations that take place on your site. So take that score with a bit of a grain of salt. You want to be doing some correlative analysis as well, or competitive analysis, I should say. So you want to first get the speed of what your site is rating at. What's how fast is your website, and grab 5 competitors, 10 competitors that are constantly either outranking you or ranking very high on the search engine terms that you want to be ranking for. Disregard websites that are say within the same industry, but they don't fill the same intent. Meaning, Yelp, it's a directory. Your industry directories, comparative websites, things of that sort. You're a local business. If you're listening to this, my assumption is you are a local business owner, and therefore you're not Yelp, you're not running a directory. So you can ignore those. You want to grab direct competitors and run this speed test, and the following speed test that I'm going to talk about. You want to run these with competitors and your website, because that's what that's what you're judged by. The bar is set based on your industry, and personally, I believe it's also going to be based on intent. If it's not already based on industry and intent, it easily is going to be, Google will be going in that direction. It only makes sense. They continue to make changes based on what's best for the users and best on user intent. So why not start optimizing for that now? So when you're at Google Insights or Speed Insights, whatever it's called, it's going to give you a general score. Underneath that, there's going to be a little drop down, and if you have enough traffic to your website in the last 30 days, it will tell you what your rating is in comparison to other sites like yours. Google will attempt to figure out what industry you're in and give you a general indication as to where your site lies in relation to the industry as a whole. That is a lot more accurate than the general score, in my opinion. What's even more accurate than that is to actually do competitive analysis and see who are those top ranking people, what's their site speed, and how can you achieve similar or better site speed. Another tool, the one that I prefer to use, and a lot of webmasters and SEOs prefer to use webpagetest.org, and you can put in your website name, and you can select servers in different locations, and you can select what type of connection you want to have. You can emulate an iPhone. You can do all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of options, and what you want to do is you want to select, there's an option in there to just first time only, like just run the first test, run it 3 times. And for the server location, if there's a server that's located close to where you do business, that's the server that you want to select. It doesn't matter if your website is fast in Wisconsin if you do business in Florida, right? And the distance from the server that is doing the test, or the person that's looking at your website, and the physical distance between them and where your server is located is going to have some bearing on the time it takes for the website to load. Imagine if you were loading a website in China. It just takes longer for a signal to travel to China and then travel back over and over and over and over again to pass data back and forth. You have that same issue going from one state to another state, or different general geographical locations. So when you're in webpagetest.org, get a server that's close to you. Make sure you're testing. You're selecting the box to test at a 3G connection, and fire away, shoot that test off, and it will tell you all these different ratings. It'll A, B, C, D. Give you a grade on the different portions of your site that can be optimized generally, or in a general sense. It will give you the either the mean or average of the 3 tests, and the one that's really you can have you can run 3 tests, and of those 3 tests, one can be really slow, one can be really fast, one's going to be in the middle. You want to look at the one in the middle. It's going to tell you which one to look at. The test will say, test 2 or test 1. You want to click on the waterfall or the results for test 2 or test 1, and it's going to give you a table. Toward the top, there will actually be 2 tables. You want to look for the cell that says DOM Interactive. That is the time it takes for the content above the fold, so the initial content that loads on your screen, to become interactive. Someone to be able to click on a button, be able to scroll up or down. That is, in my opinion, the most important metric. It's going to also tell you when people can start using the site, and when they can start getting that hope that more content is coming and it's going to actually finish loading. Often you can see longer total page load times, especially if you're running some types of scripts, analytics, tracking scripts, if you're doing number swapping, if you're doing all kinds of different things, your Facebook pixels, all that stuff. That's going to load towards the end of the page, and it'll make the total page load time take longer than what's necessary. Also, if you have YouTube videos, that will slow down that page load time as well. So we're not going to pay attention to that. Those are things that are going to take place behind the scenes that your user will not experience. So if it says it's taking 29 seconds to fully load your page, it's not actually taking 29 seconds for your users to be able to navigate or interact with your page. That's what you want to look at your DOM Interactive for. So now that you know the speed that your site is loading and the speed of the competitors, and same thing, look at their DOM Interactive. You're going to do some comparison. That gives you a benchmark. It gives you a goal of what you want to achieve. If you're already faster than them, great. There's still maybe some optimizations that can take place to make you faster. And we're going to look at some of the easiest ways to optimize your website and get you those faster speeds. Now, most websites for local businesses run on WordPress or a page builder, whether it's going to be Wix or something like that. I'm going to assume WordPress because it's one of the most popular platforms that local businesses run a website on. So the number one problem you're going to run into is media, and that is in the images. Most websites that run slow that I've looked at, that I've done speed optimizations on, they are loading large files on the page, and often it's a large file in a small area. So if you look at a web page and it takes up this little square on the page and has text to the right or the left of it, and the page is taking a long time to load, oftentimes that image is huge. It's a big giant 2,000, 3,000, I've seen 6,000 pixel images, and it's shoved into an area of 250 by 250 pixels. And if you don't know what this pixel thing is, the 250 pixels and 6,000 pixels, it doesn't matter. You just realize that you're shoving something the size of 6,000 into the size of 250. And it's unnecessary, because if it was 250 pixels, it would load perfectly fine. It does not require 6,000 pixels to be loaded into 250 pixel area. It is bloat, it's waste. So number one, what you want to do is make sure that your images that you're adding to your website are sized properly. And chances are, if you're taking the image directly off of your cell phone or directly off of any type of DSLR, point and shoot, whatever it is, scanner, anything, right? If you take that image and you're just directly uploading it into your WordPress site, I'm willing to bet that those images that you are putting on your website are way too large for what they could be, what they should be. So you want to use, whether it's whatever default photo editor you have, you can change the size. You can use Surface. I think Canva, their free version, allows you to change the size of images. You can create an image and then you can import your photo and you can resize it to fit within whatever specs you want. There's a handful of other free image editing tools out there. If you want to go all fancy and go with Photoshop, Photoshop is a great tool for this, but there are plenty of alternatives. Just do some searching around, do some Googling, and you'll find some free image editing tools, and all you want to do is resize. Now, you're going to have your images to the proper size, and when you upload them, you want them to be compressed, or you want them to be in a file format that is that's really fast. And there's a couple of formats out there. First of all, you want to stay away from GIF. So it's GIF is the file format. Generally, you want to stay away from that unless you're doing some animations, and if you are, then you're probably not going to be watching this because you're doing animations and you're not a local business. So I'm assuming you're going to be using these two file types. One is PNG, and oftentimes you're going to get results and outputs, and when you go to download things, they'll be in a PNG file format. The other file format you're going to have is JPEG, JPG, or JPEG. If you are using a transparent background, then PNG with a transparent background is fine. If you're using a solid background, so if you are adding an image to a blog and the background color of your blog is white, like most blog backgrounds are, then you want to use JPEG. It's a smaller, usually it's a smaller file size, and you can also do progressive loading. So it can load the first chunks of data, and it slowly will load the rest as time progresses. It's almost like streaming a video. You don't have to wait for the whole video to load. It's going to stream the image essentially. So you want to be using JPEGs that are progressive JPEGs. And if you're using WordPress, there are a number of tools out there to have compression done. Tiny PNG, I think it's a Smush or Smush It or whatever. There's a bunch. Go into your WordPress console, add a plugin, search for compress images, and you'll have a number to select from. If you do not have WordPress, you can still go to tinypng.com. You can drag and drop those images. They will, their system, their website will compress the image and allow you to download it. It's free. So take advantage of it, and then you can upload it to whatever, if it's whatever your site is, Wix or whatever it is. Aside from compressing your images and making them the right size, you're already going to see a good savings if you do that. And aside from that, you can do what's called lazy loading images. What lazy loading is, it means that the page is loaded on your page, and the images that are underneath your viewport is where you are looking on a site. So what's in front of you visibly. The images underneath that, they don't load yet. They wait for you to start to scroll. And as you scroll and get closer to those images, then those images are loading. So what that does is it allows for the page to load without all these images that the user may never see, and only loads them as you get close to having them used. So if you have a web page that is 1 meg in size, and within that 1 meg web page, 400,000 K of that is 400K of that is images, you're going to load a 600K page instead of a 1 meg page. And as you scroll down, then the images will start to appear. There are, again, a number, if you're using WordPress, a number of WordPress plugins that will do that. You just search around for lazy loading. I think I want to say A3 lazy load, or I don't know. There's a number of them. Do a search, go into your WordPress console, go into the plugins, type in lazy load. There's going to be a bunch of them that show up, and test some out, see which ones that you like, and see which ones you feel perform the best for your scenario, and select that one. And I'm purposefully not going to give you what plugin to use. The reason why is the environment and the other plugins that you have installed can change which plugin will be best, or whether it will even work, because you can have plugins that conflict with each other. And I don't know your website, I don't know your particular situation. There are a few that I go that I load first and I test out first, and a lot of times it's caching plugins that have lazy loading built into it. What a caching plugin is, and you're going to want one of these as well, is it takes your dynamic script, your dynamic website, which WordPress is dynamic by default, and it is dynamic, and it turns that into an HTML file. So the website doesn't have to keep going back and forth to the server to get information. Whatever that end output is, it gets saved as an HTML file and it downloads faster. HTML is faster than something that is dependent on server-side code. That's the facts of life. That's the way it is. So a caching plugin will create an HTML file. When you go to the website, it will serve that HTML file, as opposed to doing all these calculations in the background to create the page and then offer it up as an output. I personally almost always recommend people use Cloudflare. It's a free service. There's also a paid version of it. For our clients, I always suggest the paid version. It's $20 a month, and it's well worth it. So pony up the $20, have a screaming fast website, or at least a much faster website. Especially since we normally deal with a lot of attorneys and those people who are in the medical industry, plastic surgeons, urgent care, those types of companies. And for your budget, it's $20, and you want a faster website. You want conversions, right? That's the point. So if $20 a month is not going to break the bank, pay the $20 a month, have a faster website. You're going to get your money back. If $20 is a bit tight on the budget, Cloudflare, they still have a free version, and it does a pretty darn good job still. And they are Cloudflare is loosely, I'm going to call it a CDN. And what a CDN does is a CDN will connect the user, your end user, the person coming to your website, to their closest server. And remember when I said it takes a long time, if I was going to look up a website in China, for that connection you go to China, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Well, what a CDN does, it is a content delivery network. So it's going to take the content, it's going to replicate that content to a number of servers that service has access to. So it has a network of a whole bunch of different servers, and it's going to it's going to syndicate, if you will, that content to all these different servers, and wherever your end user is, Cloudflare will connect them to the nearest computer, so they can always have the nearest, closest connection. So that will speed up the website. Cloudflare also has quite a number of other optimizations to help a website go faster. And this is the paid version. It will do image optimizations out of the box. It'll minify your scripts in HTML, and what that does, it takes all the white space out. So if you have this huge web page, you think of this code, and it's all these different lines of code going down. What it does is it makes it one big giant line. It's all one line, and so the size of the page is smaller. It will do that automatically. Cloudflare will do additional optimizations to make the connection between the computer and their server be faster. There are a lot of options with Cloudflare, and if you just get Cloudflare and you out of the box run them, chances are you're still going to have a faster website than if you didn't have a content delivery network, or you weren't using something that already covered what their system does. So take a look at Cloudflare. There are some other CDN options out there. You may want to take a look at them as well. I just know that personally, I know I'm not going to recommend the service, but this is a shortcut. It really, it's not something you're going to install on your computer, so rarely is it going to conflict. And they have pretty good help, and a lot of help files out there as well. Now, if you do have a WordPress website, you still want to have a caching plugin, because one of the downsides of Cloudflare, and maybe some other CDNs as well, is that when the user comes to Cloudflare, the first time that page is brought up, it's not cached yet. Remember cache, it's that dynamic page that's made into HTML that is transmitted faster. So what Cloudflare does is it creates this HTML page, gets it from your website, stores it, and then sends it out to its network. Well, if you are the first person to show up within a 24-hour, 48-hour, or whatever the time period is for when the system resets that page, it will go and request a new page. So the first visitor, and oftentimes with Cloudflare, it's like the first 4 visitors to that page, they're going to have to wait for this whole movement of data to occur. And it's not super long, but if you are using the PHP and what WordPress normally outputs, then it does take longer, because then Cloudflare has to wait for that output to occur. What you can do is you can have a caching plugin on your WordPress installation, and that will create HTML files whenever you update, and it will go through and create HTML files before Cloudflare does this whole expiration and recaching. So that means when a person comes to your website, if they're the first, second, third, fourth person to see that page within whatever time period, and the cache has expired already, Cloudflare has to go back to your server. And when Cloudflare goes back to your server, it's able to get that information faster. So it becomes faster for the 1, 2, 3, or 4 people. So I recommend doing that. Those first 4 people to the page are just as important as number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. Especially if you don't have a lot of traffic, or you have blogs and some content that they don't get a lot of traffic. If you're only getting 3 visitors to a certain page a day, then you're going to, most of those people, most of the time, all 3 of those people are going to not be given the cached version from Cloudflare. It's going to have to go to your website anyways, so it's a good fallback. Also, occasionally the cache will, it's going to miss. In other words, the person's going to show up and say, "Hey, give me this page." Cloudflare is going to say, "Oh, sorry, missed. Let me go grab that So by default, it's going to go grab it from your server and then give your end user the page. If it misses, you still want to have a fast fallback in place, and that's where your cache plugin is going to be. And those really are the top speed optimization hacks, if you will. It's not really a hack, just things that you should be doing. Best practices. You don't take a giant image and shove it into a small space. Compress and optimize your images. Those are going to be your biggest takeaways. Those are going to solve most of your problems. Then you can lazy load those images if you have the ability to. If you have WordPress, that's fairly simple. If not, there's a little bit of technical expertise that needs to kind of go into building a lazy loading system properly. But we're not covering that today. I'm not covering development. But you can go to your developer and say, hey, do we have lazy loading? I know we don't have WordPress. I want my website to load fast. Can you put lazy loading into the website? They should be able to build that for you. And then use Cloudflare. It's a great service. Or if you, for some reason, don't like Cloudflare, or you have an issue with them or a problem with them, look up an alternative CDN. But use some type of CDN. It's going to make your site go a lot faster. And that's what I have for you on this episode. So hopefully, as the other episodes I've said, I hope I'm bringing some value to you. I hope I'm, delivering a message that can help you out, that can get you better positions, better ranking in the search engines. And, if I am, give this a like. Be sure to subscribe so that you can get a notification for the next episode when we come out with some new tips and tricks for you. All right? Till then, have a good one.